the screen, share the live for me, please. Tap the screen, share the live. Welcome in, welcome in. This is an info session for intro to holistic medicine for Hillman Talk. So those interested in intro to holistic medicine. I'm just hosting a live to go over our syllabus and discuss what we will be talking about. So holistic medicine is a world that is incredibly unique in the sense that it looks at the entire person. So we're looking at not just the physical aspects of the person, but we look at the environmental, we look at the mental, we look at the emotional, we look at the spiritual, as well as the ancestral components of an individual. Right? But that's a lot of levels, and that's a lot of, understanding in terms of what makes up a human being. So we kind of start off small where we're just going to focus on the physical, because most people enter into healthcare, unfortunately, in the physical body, meaning that our conventional healthcare system has conditioned us to be more reactive than proactive. And so when we're reactive, we wait, and the reason why we wait is because we're undereducated about actually how our body works and how our bodies function. And so that lack of education leads to dependency on really a broken system. And unfortunately, over the next, several years, we're going to really experience a lot of stress, especially today. I just heard that President Trump immediately withdrew from the WHO, but not only that, the conversations, they're just stopping. And so the lack of access of information is going to be really, really, a critical issue. So fortunately, fortunately, we went through this before, right? And so what is amazing about holistic medicine is that we have the ability to take our own data. Hello, welcome in. This is the intro to holistic medicine info session. So if you're interested in taking this class for spring semester, all this week I'm talking about the syllabus. And so right now I'm just discussing holistic medicine and what it's about. So anyway, we in holistic medicine, we take all of our own data. So we don't depend on, we don't have to depend on other people's data, meaning that we're not dependent upon the CDC or the NIH or any larger, government entity. We actually collect our own data. So there's different layers and levels of data that we collect on our patients. And so that's really what Intro to Holistic Medicine is about. It's about understanding how we collect data. And so we break it up, and pretty much it's a 12-week class, so 4-week term. And I record them live just like I'm doing right now. So Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Saturday at 11 Eastern Standard Time. So they will be pre-recorded, or not pre-recorded, they'll be live recorded. And then if you're in the class, you'll have access to the replay. And then, of course, if you go through the whole course, then you'll get a certificate and that sort of thing. So in holistic medicine, we work on several different types of data. So the first type of data is subjective data. Subjective data is what the patient tells us, right? So that we use a process called motivational interviewing. So we're going to listen, right? We're listening more than we're speaking usually, and we're hearing for clues, right? And those clues, we're drawing things out, and then we're asking, more in-depth questions to have a better understanding, right? And so an understanding is much more than, what symptoms do you have? It's, also an understanding of how your health state is created, because health is not an absence of symptom or disease, it's a state that we have to create. And so people don't recognize that it is a state that they have to create and they have to maintain. In fact, in many times people neglect their health state, and instead they succumb to the pressures of the world, society, etc. So, what we really do in holistic medicine is we do a lot of patient education and public health education. So we really teach people how their bodies work. And so we start off with subjective data, like I said. Not only are we doing interviewing, but we're also using questionnaires, and there's different processes behind questionnaires. And so that helps us to kind of cut away from bias, because if we're just listening and hearing, interpreting, perception, we're not really going to get the full picture. So we also use that data as well, because also as well, like sometimes when patients come in, they're not like immediately like, oh yeah, there's a lot of stress, pressure, and at least, in my practice, I'm usually the doctor that the patients see last. They've been to primary, they've been to every specialist, haven't gotten any answers really, been gaslit a bunch, stressed out, definitely mishandled in many different capacities, not feeling well, still have no, it's a myriad of emotions that our patients deal with. And so we have to really be empathetic and understanding and really neutral to allow for that patient to feel safe, because most of the patients we're dealing with now have iatrogenics, which is medical trauma. So meaning because of being gaslit or misinformation or, any number of things. I mean, I've heard the gamut over my career, but, so we really have to kind of take a gentle hand and also really listen and come from a place of compassion, while also providing some sort of objective analysis there, right? Because this patient's coming in and they have a perception of what they think it is. And that perception may not line up with reality, meaning line up with the data. And so the data is a real check safe for us. So we're not just going based off of our feelings or even based off of some, third party something or other, right? The data is the data is the data. And so we can't, there's interpretation and there's definitely an art to reading data indeed, but typically in this structure of this class, we're keeping it very safe and very basic. So, but I'll talk about kind of what levels of data that we collect. But in this particular class, again, we're going to learn about the subjective data. You're going to use those questionnaires. You're going to be doing a little bit of role playing back and forth. And then from there, we're going to use objective data. So objective data is data outside of me, outside of you, something that we can assess, right? And so that creates what we call a mixed methods approach, where we're using subjective and we're using objective, and we combine the two. So it's the strongest type of study that is. A lot of times in different studies you look at, they're like meta-analysis, which is very biased form of study, because they pretty much cherry pick, the studies and to be able to deduce down what they want. And so again, the higher up you get in these macro, organizations, there's a lot more unfortunately corruption, and I've seen over the last probably 5 years, I've seen more and more lawsuits paid out, various different things. So, there's really also the peer reviewers. So the pharmaceutical industry actually was found liable for paying peer reviewers, and peer reviewers were accepting that. So when we talk about gold standards in studies, right, peer review is supposed to be the highest standard of study. Well, when you have, special interest groups that are paying to corrupt the study, you can't really depend on the data. And I learned pretty early on that you cannot depend on the larger organization. So while they're falling in one aspect, it's really, really scary because we don't get the public health aspect of it, like pandemic, those kinds of things. Like when there are pathogens and there are pathogenic outbreaks, we need to get that in fast time, so that's part of it. However, when we look at what is actually driving disease process, it's not those acute conditions, it's actually chronic disease that's based off of lifestyle modifiable factors. So what are lifestyle modifiable factors? Those are things you actually have control over, right? And so, when I went through my MBA, I studied, what the impact on the healthcare system was. So my MPH was before that, and much before, but I really understood about the healthcare system, why it was developed, what the purpose of insurance was, public health policy and those factors, and then looking at what the pain points were are in the healthcare system, right? And so it's what I deduced it down to was a lack of education, people not having enough education about their bodies, which I had seen for years and years and years anyway. And so this class really brings it back to the basics, in terms of not only just how you address your body and look at your body, but also how you look at other people's bodies as well. Because this class is definitely designed for you to continue to go forward if you want to, go into the world of holistic medicine, because it's an incredible career path. I've been in natural health care for 20 years. I started off, or over 20 at this point. I started off as a massage therapist, and I did all of that, right? And I kept going back to school and kept going back to school and kept going back to school, right? And now I have a lot of education. So, definitely I can use all of those educations as cross sections, meaning that I'm not just looking at one aspect of healthcare, like let's say the public health aspect of it, or the clinical aspect of it, or the research aspect of it, or the business aspect of it. I can actually look at all of these aspects of it because of the various different educations. And so in doing that, right, in looking at all of these different vantage points, it really allows you to create a more refined system, right? And so we knew we can't depend on these larger institutions, and that definitely failed during COVID for sure. We really, unfortunately, a lot in the hospitals, really, they did not know what to do at all. And where in my practice, because we take our own data, we were able to run reports, see whose immune system was more susceptible, see whose cardiometabolic system was more susceptible, put those patients on preventative protocols, and we didn't lose any patients. And so being proactive instead of reactive is always going to help us, rather than waiting until there becomes a problem. We want to really start sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, people don't do that. They wait and wait and wait. So we definitely need a lot more providers in our field, in our profession. There are a lot of people who, they aspire to do this work, but don't necessarily follow through. So I'm hoping that, with doing these info sessions pretty frequently this week, that it will spark people to go, wait a second, this is something I've been thinking about, and here's an opportunity to be able to do it. And you kind of get to dip your toe in with this 12-week course. So we go into the history the first week and understanding philosophy. Then the second week we look at subjective analysis. Then we look at objective analysis. We're going to look at really about 3 metrics. So we're going to look at your salivary pH, your urinary pH, and your heart rate. And so salivary pH is going to help us to determine digestion. So you're going to get to understand understand your digestive process a little bit better, at least your upper GI. And then with urine, we see more oxidative stress. We see how the body is actually detoxifying, because the kidneys are a support organ for the liver. So as it's helping that filtering process, it's in essence offshooting into your urine. So we look at that, and then we're also going to look at your heart rate. So heart rate can be used for all sorts of things, but we're going to look at it specifically in the context of stress. A lot of times we use it also for cardiovascular, and also athletic training, and really when we get into like peak optimization, there's like when we're looking at VO2 and all that kind of stuff, we really get super fine-tuned with heart rate. But we're not going to get all complicated, but I definitely want you to understand how like just vast our world is in data. And so what has been incredibly frustrating for me, being in this field, so how I began in this field, just so you guys understand, my mother has been in medicine, was in medicine. She's a social worker now. However, she was a cancer researcher at NIH, and she went to HBCU. And so I was surrounded by just really talented Black physicians and scientists, researchers, etc. And I got to kind of go along with her. She, kept me in tow. Same thing with my daughter. When I started my business, I kept her in tow too. And so I got to learn a lot, but also too, we, also practice our Afro-Indigenous practices as well as other just more natural healthcare practices like, acupuncture and Reiki and rebirthings and attunements. And that was really like part of my childhood, was all this science, right? And then all this, spirituality, and also more really Eastern-based bioenergetic practices. We now have objective analysis for these things, which is pretty incredible. We didn't have that, obviously many years ago, but 40 plus years now of research, we have bioenergetics. And so if you're not familiar with what bioenergetics is, it's the same system that, let's say, acupuncture is built off of, or the chakras, right, for yoga. So all of those systems, right, are very low frequency. And in Western medicine, they negate that. They don't see it. They only like they pick and choose what they want to believe or recognize. Whereas, in the East, there's a lot more openness and understanding to, things beyond just the physical, right? And so we, again, in terms of data, we use a human biofield camera. There's also a GDV camera as well that you can utilize, but I have a human biofield with, and so I did study with Dr. Thornton Streeter. He is a researcher, out of the UK. And so we, did all of that. And so I have a biofield. So I'll show you guys a little bit, as we kind of go along in this info session about biofields and all of that. So that's the objective analysis that we use. Where we would use biofield is like, let's say if we wanted to assess a person's energetic blockages, like their emotions, if they're stuck here, that's going to be grief, sadness, sorrow, right? If they're stuck maybe more on the right side, then we know that's going to be more of, a giving side, right? So, or a masculine side, right? Or if, let's say, it's on the right side, it's more receiving, more feminine, those sorts of things. So it gives us understanding, but it also, we can use it in two ways. Bioenergetics, we can use it as an assessment tool, but we can also use it as a treatment tool as well. So I have a Thera, which is a bioenergetic device. So sometimes, like for instance, let's say in the case of mold, let's say a patient has had mold exposure in their home, and mold, if you've ever had mold in your home, like it's really expensive to take out. And so sometimes patients are not able to do it, and they're still living in it. And so what do we do with those cases? So what happens is in bioenergetics, they can take some of the specimen of the mold, they can put it in in like a little tube, and then ship it to me, and I run it through a machine, right, along with the patient's photo, because bioenergetics doesn't require blood. We'll get into blood in a minute, but and we'll get into genetics and all that, but just so you understand, like, this is very low frequency, right? And so I can run frequencies through a person's system as well as kind of pull out and neutralize. So it's really all about the immune system's reaction. And so how we kind of came to, this piece, again, 40 plus years. The researchers attached to that are out of Greece, PhDs, everything that I do is heavily data-based, but unfortunately it's greatly censored too. So now, I'm not beholden to the system. I'm not regulated under the American Medical Association. We actually are under our own umbrella, so we're not beholden to the powers that be. So I'm actually free to express and communicate. I'm not, chokehold right now. Most of your conventional doctors at this point, because of the system that they're in and that they are now complicit in, many of them are silenced. They're not going to be able to communicate, speak, etc. And again, remember I told you I was a little girl, right? And when I was a little girl, I knew I was going to be a doctor. I mean, you're surrounded by, brilliant doctors with my mother and everything else. My mother's not a doctor, but she is an amazing human being, brilliant beyond. And so the thing is that I researched all these types of doctors. I researched medical doctors. I researched osteopaths. I researched naturopaths. I researched homeopaths. I researched chiropractors. I researched all their beginnings, right, when I was really little. And I knew what they were all about. I knew about Rockefeller. I knew about Andrew Still, and the osteopaths. They unfortunately, in order to be accepted under the American Medical Association, they sold out a lot of their holistic practices. And there's still some truly treating osteopaths that still do manipulation, but most of them have dropped that and are now more pharmaceutical driven, which is all under the Rockefeller system. Rockefeller, if you know, in the 1900s, early 1900s, he got in trouble for racketeering, and so he created the Rockefeller Philanthropies as kind of like a do-gooder thing, and so to kind of make public interest. But what he did was he tied on to germ theory, which was a Louis Pasteur theory, which we'll talk about in the class, and so that was a theory, and so he grabbed onto it and then combined that with petroleum with naturally occurring substances to create pharmaceuticals. So that's how, and now it's a big giant conglomerate that has taken over, everything. So we're not a part of that system. Our profession has split as naturopaths. That's why I'm kind of going out, I'm going in a different direction just because our profession is so split as naturopaths. Because there is a group that wants to be a part of the system, and then we're like the last of the, whatever's trying to hold on to our natural healthcare practices. And so it becomes increasingly more challenging as colonization takes hold. But I really think that over this next thing, it's really going to be I think it's going to really be an inevitable change and refreshing. So now is definitely the time to get educated, because we're going to need a lot of holistic doctors in the future to deal with the levels of trauma, to deal with the physiological aspects of it. So when we talk about the mind, the body, and the spirit, we're talking about all the aspects of the human being. But in essence, right, practically speaking, we're talking about a person's mindset, right? And then we're talking about what their mind is like. There's different aspects of the mind. And then we're talking about their emotional body, right? And many people have not really, become emotionally aware or emotionally intelligent. And so there's a lot of imbalance in that aspect. And then there's the nervous system responses that happen as a response to the mental turmoil, the emotional turmoil, and now the physical. And so that doesn't even take into consideration the genetic implications. So bioenergetics is one level. Then we look at genetics. We can look at genetics. And so genetics is varied because we look at just the genetic SNPs, right? But then we also are going to look at methylation pathways. So that's all the proteins and the cofactors, all the nutrients that make all of that work. It's a totally different language than, let's say, in biochemistry. But genetics, we can't necessarily change them per se, but we can support, our genetics. So that's the world of epigenetics, right? So they are, in a sense, modifiable. So let's say, for instance, if somebody had, let's say, a COMT variant, right, which is more geared towards, let's say, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, whatever, we know that that person may have some nervous system instability. So what are we going to do? We're going to support that person's nervous system. So we may do some tryptophan, or we may do some tyrosine, or we may do some magnesium is such an easy one, or L-theanine. We may work with that patient on breath work. And we're going to do that preventatively. We're going to work on them with we're going to teach them how to work on their vagal nerve. We're not going to wait until that person has those issues. We're going to prevent. We're going to educate because we have the data. Hey, hi, yay, very cool. Yeah, so there's a link in my bio, and you just need to fill out the registration. Like, there's a little registration form, and then I'm getting organized as the week goes by. So yeah, there's a little registration form. There's a link. So again, thank you for reminding me. But I am teaching a class, Intro to Holistic Medicine. So I'm talking all about holistic medicine. And so if you want to sign up for the class, please go ahead and register. The class is again, it's 12 weeks. The class is done actually through, I have an online portal that we use, and an online community. So there'll be online community discussions, topical, in addition to, so definitely join the community that's in there. There's like a little link in there. And then there's also the core shell as well. So there's a technology fee because of all of that. It's $39 for the for every month for the 3 months. And then at the end, you get a certificate. We go over every single week different topics. So like I said, that foundation. So I was all talking about like the data and stuff. Again, we're going to start really, really basic, but that's where we go. We go way, eventually, we're getting into biochemistry. We're getting into functional medicine, advanced functional medicine, integrative medicine. We're getting into, we start you off also with remote patient monitoring. So remote patient monitoring is more of your like physical assessment. So more of like lifestyle factors. So that's where your patients are going to track their food, track their water, track their, pH levels or whatever. You'll also have, a tracker as well. So you'll have our app. So all of that. So you'll be tracking your own data. So you'll start to learn more about how your body works. Again, we're going to focus mainly on the digestive system because majority of the immune system, hormonal system, and neurological system is all housed in the digestive system. So we're going to work on that. Yes, exactly. It will absolutely become a habit to do that, because physician heal thyself. You absolutely have to be a practitioner of this work yourself. I don't believe in false prophets. I believe that you really must do the work yourself in order to be able to teach other people. So all the lab testing that you typically do in this field, you do on yourself first, and then you do on like friends and family, and then eventually you do have to do clinicals and stuff like that. So I had to do the clinicals all by hand, and I actually I'm going to teach it that way. So because I think technology is great, but I also think there's a real art to doing it in the long form. So I'll show you both methods just so that you have it, because what some of the things that we want to be considerate of in healthcare in general is technology is great and it's amazing and we love technology and it helps us so much, right? However, you have to be able to function if there's no technology, right? And so I teach you both methods so that you're not dependent upon technology. I think that even like with AI and things like that, with AI healthcare, it's only as good as the person that's putting the information in, right? It's not really like it does it. You can't replace a doctor with AI. And I know that there's a lot of rumblings about that. So it'll be interesting to see where health tech goes in general, because it's going in some pretty incredible places. So yeah, so we'll be doing a 12-week class. We'll be meeting on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you don't see the class live, it's totally fine as long as you're registered. There'll be a replay. There is discussion requirements too, so I'll post everything on Sunday. This week is just all info sessions, so I'll just be doing info sessions all week long and getting people registered for the class. Next week, what will happen is Sunday I will post everything will be posted before then, but everything posted in on Sunday, and that way you can make your first discussion. Your first discussion is due on Wednesday of next week, and then you'll have just kind of an easy assignment. So the assignments it's not really written, there's not any papers or anything like that, but hey, Cron, but you will definitely need to do your tracking, so that is a part of it. So that part, you definitely want to make sure that you get that accomplished. So because obviously you're practicing it, right, and you want to be able to get the benefit of the data, right? So why we assess what we assess is we're looking at digestive process, we're looking at metabolic function, we're looking at how you process your proteins. We can see that. We can also see oxidative stress and toxicity within the body and how that's doing. So pH levels are really easy to track and really easy to modify as well, so it's pretty safe. And then the heart rate, we're going to look at heart rate just from a stress perspective, and I'm going to teach you how to use it as a biofeedback tool. So bio meaning body, feedback meaning gaining feedback from, and so you can actually shift your heart rate up and down, and so I'm going to teach you how to do that, and so that way, the more, so if you think about it, what we're trained to do is to optimize, right? Optimize the body, right? Optimize the mind, optimize the body, optimize all of it, right? We're living at a high frequency, and so that's what the goal is, right? So we do that multiple ways. Most people, they're on a pretty primitive level, and we're just addressing the physical, the mental, and the emotional. Most of the time, that those are pretty much where most people are going to be working and operating out of, meaning that we're going to be working with them on their diet, we're going to be working with them on their mindset, we're going to be working with them on their emotional intelligence, we're going to be working with them on their coping and their resilience, because people use food as a tool, and so there definitely is a lot of emotional eating that happens with people, so we want to give them tools to be able to not go to food. Now, we don't want to shame them because they go to food. We want to be able to offer different solutions and choices. We use positive psychology in our practice. We don't really use negative psychology because we find it doesn't work. So meaning, like, if you tell somebody don't do something, like, oh, don't eat that, right? It's not going to work, right? But if you celebrate a person for making an effort, it is going to work much better, because now you're giving the person motivation, right? You're giving them, really it's classical conditioning. So you're giving them like a reward. So rather than, deprecation and you're bad, and most people will have that kind of noise already going on in their head, and some people will speak it out loud, some people won't. So we really have to kind of flush that stuff out. We're making sure, exactly, positive feedback. We're making sure we're not doing any harm, right? We don't want to do any harm to people, so we try to maintain maintain objective awareness so that we're not, projecting and transferring all of our nonsense onto people. We create a container and we operate within that container. Let's see. So if you guys have any questions about the class, it's a 12-week class. It's going to start next week. So all this week I'm just hosting lives and getting registrations. There is a link in the bio, and you want to join the community because there'll be discussions in there, and then also to I'll be posting announcements and whatnot as I get things more organized. I'm gonna have to circle back with my TA. I think she'll be helping me. So let me know if you guys have any questions about the class. Like I said, it's 12 weeks. There's 3 parts to it. The first part is all like the data part, that foundations. The second part is the modalities. So we'll get into nutrition, we'll get into movement, we'll get into mindfulness. So there's 3 parts to that. And then in the other aspect, the last part, we'll go into case studies and we'll go into more practical application and integration. So that's the 3 parts. So I know I kind of made that confusing. So first part is foundations, all the data, understanding data. Then the second part is modalities. What do we do with the data? Now we've collected this data and we're staring at it. What do we do with it? So we'll look at various modalities and we'll see how your data is impacted by certain things with, let's say, your diet or with your you're gonna click, so in my bio you're gonna click the link and it says it'll say like sign up for intro to holistic medicine. It's like the first box. So it's like a blue sheet and then there's like, you'll see it. It's pretty simple. If you can't see it or there's a problem, shoot me a DM. If you're on, let's see, IG has DM. If you're on YouTube, just put a comment and I'll see it. I think that's the only one because LinkedIn has a DM and IG has a DM, TikTok has DM. So I think the only one that doesn't have a DM is YouTube. So just put it in the comments if you're having a problem with registration. So so first week is all foundations. Second week is modalities. What do we do with this data now that we've collected all this? What the heck do we do with it? What does it mean? Well, we understand what it means by that point, but okay, so now, how do we improve it? And so you'll be able to see, right? And so you'll get positive feedback, classical conditioning in terms of, yay, great, this is improving. Now I can see this number improve. So when a person sees a number improve, what happens, right? They get more motivated and especially too if their bodies start to feel better. Now, not to say that placebos don't work because they do. Fascinating studies about that. However, which allows us to understand that we're more than just these physical bodies, but I digress. So we'll look at that data and then we'll assess it from there and you'll know what to do with it to make it better. And then we'll start to kind of build upon it in terms of cases and case structures and how these things work and obviously how the career is and career paths and, all the things that you can do in this field. So, yay! Hey! What's up? So welcome to the info session for Intro to Holistic Medicine. I'm Dr. Steele. Please, if you are just joining. So it's this is a 12-week class. So it's in 3 parts. It's 4-week parts. So each part is 4 weeks, right? So in neuroscience, the most efficient is in a 12-week structure, right? And so I'll teach you this 12-week structure. So it's 4, 4, and 4. So 4 weeks of foundation, 4 weeks of foundation, 4 weeks of modalities, and then 4 weeks of integration and, next steps kind of thing. And so, so it's a 12-week class. I will be streaming the classes Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you do not catch the live class. It's okay if you're registered. It'll be in the course shell, so you'll have access to that and you'll be able to watch the replay. There is discussions, and then also you'll have to be tracking your data as well. And there'll be an app for you to do that. You'll have my clinical app that my patients get, and so you'll be able to ask me questions about your health, and I'll be able to load stuff in there for you and kind of guide you. So we'll be tracking your data. So I will get to see your data. So make sure you put your data in. No cheating. We'll talk about structures of how to collect data, because there's a whole thing with that. Don't sweat it. I really break it down for you, because this is very much a mindset thing. It's not always just a physical thing, so we have to break down all the mindset aspects of it, because it will show up. You will get stopped, and even though you're like, I know I need to do this, there is a why behind it. So we do break that down and help you to understand, because you want to understand what the patients are going to go through, right? The patients are going to go through quite a bit, and so if you don't understand your own process, right? How are you going to be able to help somebody else? You're not. So this is also a kind of a deconstructive journey for you as well. So so let me know. Can I send you my doctor's report on me? You want your labs reviewed? I can review your labs for you, yes. That would be a review of findings. Review of findings are $100, and I give you a 30-plus page report. I do prefer to do a consult first, though. So I would set up a consult first. Consult's $100, and that way I can do the case taking. I can pull your doctor's report, any medical records. If I need to run labs, I can run labs in that appointment, etc. And so I typically will do like a consult, which is an hour long of case taking. I give you practical things to do as well, but then I also set you up and get you on the app and have you do the things I need you to do. And then in 2 to 3 weeks, I see you back and I create that lab report for you, and we go over it in detail, and that's when I build a 12-week plan for you. So I'm teaching you guys similarly, like how this process works, right? And then we kind of do another 12-week, and that, based off the data, based off of the patient subjective. So we use subjective and objective. So what the patient is telling us and what we're monitoring, as well as objective analysis, which is what we can measure and monitor and all that jazz. So so we use both. So feel free, definitely. I still do see patients, but definitely moving more into the teaching space, indeed. So if you're interested about holistic medicine, let me know. So it's a great profession. Like I said, I've been in a long time. I became a doctor pretty young, at like 24. I have 2 doctorate degrees, actually. I have an AS in psychology, a bachelor's in natural healthcare sciences, a bachelor's in alternative medicine, a doctorate in natural medicine, a doctorate in naturopathy. I'm a board certified naturopathic doctor, so I took my board exam, and then a master's in public health, so an MPH. And then my MBA. So, and that's it. And then I'm in my PhD, but I'm taking my time. I'm not in a rush. So, and my PhD is in international psychology with an emphasis in organizational systems. So I look at the impact of colonization and that sort of thing on our healthcare system. So I've really been alongside the ride of this healthcare craziness, and so literally when I became a doctor, that's when the ACA started. So I've been kind of inundated with that. So definitely give a fresh perspective. But what I was telling people earlier is what's really cool about that is you're looking at all these different cross sections of the same system, like different aspects of how we look at it from that profession. And so through that, you can create something just totally brand new and unique. And so what we do specifically is we evaluate data, we educate our patients, and we hold them accountable so that they achieve the results that they're looking for. So, it's a big task, and patients definitely have various different reactions to the work, and but knowing you doing your own work, and also knowing therapeutic order and knowing therapeutic structures, that will keep you well protected from all of that, because there's a certain structure that we go through when we're treatment, right? So we put our patients in a container, right? So there's not all that transference back and forth, because we're literally evaluating data most of the time. So we're asking, and then we're holding them accountable. So let's say we collect the data on the patient, we assess that data on the patient, then we give them their 12-week treatment plan, right? And so then we break that treatment plan down week by week, and then we're working with the patient and we're saying, oh, okay, so you need to do this. We're checking in with the patient every 2-3 weeks in standard cases. Most depends on the type of case, but I would say the sweet spot is every 3 weeks behaviorally, neurologically, to really make that shift every 3 weeks for about a year. It's really been, pretty effective in full transformation of people's lives. Because you think about it, people are coming in from all different perspectives. They're coming in from all different lifestyles. And so with that, it takes time for that transition to occur. And so, again, we don't want to overload the patient with multiple things to do, and we also don't want to step over things, right? Because a lot of times patients have stepped over a lot of things by the time that they get you. And, number one, we know your secrets keep you sick, but we also know that you can't heal in the same environment that got you sick. So there is a lot of change involved. So you'll learn about the stages of change, how the brain works, how the brain responds to change. There is definitely a lot of, resistance, reaction, etc. However, if we really work with the patient on emotional intelligence and activating their prefrontal cortex using logic and reason, then it really begins to help them to understand, okay, this is more congruent. So then defense mechanisms, begin to go down, and now they're able to receive the information. That's why the positive psychology is so important and critical, because that conditioning keeps them, continuing the work. Now, with that being said, there are reactions, and at times those reactions, especially the more visceral reaction, depending upon how much trauma is there and how much unresolved trauma is there. And so sometimes at a certain level you do need to bring in a psychologist, very rarely a psychiatrist, because I do so much in that world. But it does happen. Most of the time, patients already come in and they have a psychiatrist already. So me referring out to one doesn't happen very often, but me getting referred definitely happens. Hey, hello again. Oh, wonderful. You're here again. Oh, awesome. Now I see it on the thing. So yeah, awesome. So we're just talking about the class again. There's now a link in the bio. You could just fill out the form, and once you fill it out, then I'm collecting registrations all week, and then we'll send everybody out their letters, because I want to meet with the TA, because I think you guys get like actual acceptance letters. So I want to make sure that I'm following protocols and stuff like that. So I want to make sure. Oh, very cool. From Vegas. That's awesome. Yeah. Where's everybody from? Where's everybody at in the world? So I know this is global, and I'm streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and the Book of Face. I think I covered all of them. So whichever platform you're viewing me on, hello, and wherever you are, whatever time of day in the world. Rhode Island, New Jersey, you guys are cold. Vegas is still kind of warm, so that's good. Nice. Very cool. Yeah, well, definitely ask me any questions you have about holistic medicine, about the career, about the field, about okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, so Philly, Delaware, New Jersey in the house. Ohio, very cool. I love it. Yeah, hopefully you guys thaw out here soon. Yeah, I love it. I am in the beautiful St. Lucia, in the Caribbean, in the West Indies. So that is where I live, which is a very beautiful island, very naturesque. Lots of healing plants here. So nonies grow and soursop grows and all types of herbs and all sorts of things. So I'm actually building a graduate program, right? And so then building it into a doctorate level. I have several master's and doctorate level courses, and once you build up to more master's and doctorate levels, there is a hybrid portion where you'll have to come down to St. Lucia and work on the land and learn all about the different natural plants and things that grow and all the things. So oh, is it 6:23 where you're at in Vegas? It's like 10:30 here. Yeah, exactly. So we'll do, yeah, so once you get into the more upper level courses, again, we're just kind of starting out. And so I'm starting off with single classes, certifications, and then we'll build into degrees. This I am building into an accredited school. I've been planning this for a long time. This isn't, it just so happened that Hillman Talk kind of sprung up, so that was pretty cool. So yeah, so here we are. And so I've had relationships. If you need a bachelor's degree or you want a bachelor's degree, I think Hillman Talk is really working on building this. So take advantage of it, especially because, I'm sure it's going to be a lot more affordable. And so, working towards accreditations and all that kind of stuff, this is an amazing opportunity for anyone that wants to be educated. I know that they have like 300 to 400 classes this semester. Some of the classes like that are compatible with this one, I think they have Intro to Metaphysics. I think they have I saw an African herbalism class. I saw a more of like a holistic mental health class. So those are some of the classes that would be very simpatico. I'll have to check out some of the other classes so I can kind of tell you which classes would kind of work, and I'll have to check out their syllabuses and all that stuff. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. But yeah, so this is just the beginning, and so we'll start with an intro to holistic medicine and then kind of work up from there. We'll see who wants to actually do this, because it does take something. It takes effort, it takes time. You're roughly about 3 to 5 hours a week, for this class. So and that's with the lectures. So it's about an hour on Wednesday night, and then about 2 hours on Saturday. So again, we kind of go into a little bit more, and then a lot more education. So you're getting a little bit at a time, so it'll build on top of each other, the understanding. So the link is in the bio, and you can register. There is a technology of $39 for the 3 months, so I don't know, it's like a little over $100 or something for the entire class. You do get a certificate at the end of the class of completion. And if you're not familiar with me, I'm very, very well known and prominent. No, we're going to start meeting next Wednesday. So all this week is just info sessions. I'm just going to host these live info sessions to get everybody to register. And then I want to also get everybody into like the course shell, and get everybody organized into where they need to go. So join the community in the link too. And so that way, so here's the thing. I didn't want my nervous system to be an overload, right? Because I know, it's super exciting, like what's going on. And so I wanted to make sure that I gave all of us kind of some time to breathe. If everybody needed to, meet with a counselor, because they have counselors if you feel like you've taken too many credits this semester. So a week to kind of everybody to get organized, and then we'll start officially next week. Yes, exactly. Yes, definitely. Oh, very cool. Yeah, this is going to be a really fun class. I absolutely love, obviously I've dedicated my entire life to it. So, and taken so much heat for it. But I will say this, that the future is bright for holistic medicine. However, I have a very special secret sauce to my practice, because this is also my ancestry and my indigeneity and my Afro-indigeneity. And so it's not just, I didn't just go to school for this, right? This is who I be. And so it'll be amazing to be able to interact with all of you guys and find out who you be, and really just be able to pour into each one of you. The world of holistic medicine is just, I mean, I can't speak, just amazing, the transformations, the experiences I've had in my life. Because naturally, when you're a healer, and I don't necessarily identify as that, but when you're a healer, you're drawn to other healers. And so I've been able to really meet with and work with healers from all over the world in these amazing places. And so I definitely am excited to share all that I've learned from so many years, and really just, hand the torch over, honestly. Girl's tired. I've done this so long, and I'm really good at it, and I really love it, and all of those. But I've had a really good run. I'm ready to move into teaching, just, here, because we really need providers and practitioners. With the advent of chronic disease, chronic illness, also with all these experimental treatments, unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of autoimmune reactions, autoimmune conditions with the food supply the way that it is. Yeah, definitely. We will talk about it. So if you want to, let me see, a person interested in this subject almost age 16 in school at this time. Yeah, sure, definitely. If you want to take it, totally. It's a great, well, the class is like I said, 39 times 3, so whatever that is, because it's $39 a month for the 3 months, right? And that's your tech fee. So so that's the class. It's an intro class, so and we're focusing on the metabolism, we're focusing on your eating, we're focusing on your movement. So it's a really good foundations course. So even if you don't want to necessarily do this as a profession, you can still definitely do it for yourself. But I specifically definitely want people who really are passionate about this natural. They really want to change the course of healthcare. We're at a very pivotal time in healthcare right now, with the current administration, and we absolutely do not know, but we do know this: we are going to go into an information blackout when it comes to people's health. And so needing to know this information, how you can take your health. Again, I will teach you how to do it without technology and with technology. So knowing also those basic skills, even just what to look for. I can't even tell you how many babies. I was in family practice for 15 years. So I had a standard brick and mortar family practice, but all holistic. I created a practice that I wanted to bring, that I would have brought my daughter to. So it was fully functioning. It had all kinds of toys and everything. It was like a big house. There was like fireplaces, and I've treated a lot of families and a lot of people. And so what I learned over all of those years was just really, the lack of education that really needs to happen. And so you'll be on the front lines of that. The things that I caught that were not caught in conventional healthcare, I mean, again, I'm writing a book right now as well, because I have unlimited time. So I'm also writing a book, Decolonize Your Healthcare, because unfortunately I became the cleanup crew of medicine. And being the cleanup crew of medicine, you get to see all of the challenges in healthcare. And, it is still true that medical errors is still the third leading cause of death globally. And so I believe it's globally. I know it's definitely the United States, but we definitely want to make sure that, we are doing something and being proactive. And remember, what's driving our healthcare cost is actually not your pandemics, endemics, all that kind of stuff. It's not your, cancer, surgeries, that kind of stuff. It is chronic disease. It is lifestyle factors. And a lot of that has to do with our food supply. A lot of that has to do with our lifestyle factors. But a lot of it has to do with just lack of education, because most people are getting education from, let's say the diet industry, or they're getting education from their health influencer industry, or they're getting education from their neighbor, or, and so it's while all of that information can be helpful, right, and can lead you to a path, it isn't necessarily applicable to you. So we are moving to more personalized medicine, whereas before it was more global medicine. It was more what this study said, or what that study said, or that study said. Well, now we realize, wait a second, all these things were corrupt, and so they're all been profiteering, and so there is going to be this balance and this coming back to nature, if you will. I prophesized this a little bit. They hammered me during COVID on Clubhouse, man, but I told them, man, it will fall, because the healthcare system cannot sustain in the current state that it's in. It's a sick care system, not a healthcare system. It's highly reactive. The providers don't know nearly as much as you think they do. Again, I've been cleaning it up for years. So, moral of the story is 12-week course, right? It's 4 weeks. We do a foundations first, so you learn just, what is this thing called data, right? What are we doing with this? 3 metrics we're going to look at: just urinary pH, salivary pH, and heart rate. So nothing crazy. We're not evaluating blood panels and all that. Although eventually, if you want to go into that, I will totally, I did so my second doctorate degree, I focused on specifically on functional medicine, and also in my other doctorate, it was homeopathy, so low frequency. So I'm really good in low frequency, like homeopathy, classical and complex homeopathy. And we use, and even homeoprophylaxis, which is actually a way to educate the immune system, where you're not using inoculations. However, that's, suppressed in a lot of ways, but there is ways to educate the immune system without having to use inoculations, ironically. And so also too, I've used homeoprophylaxis in TB as well. So I know TB is a hot thing right now. Everybody's concerned about that. But we can, support the body's immune system if it has contracted that, using homeopathy and homeoprophylaxis. So totally natural. So also, what else? What else can I tell you? What else do you want to know? Do you guys want to know anything else about holistic medicine and what it's all about? So, yeah, for those coming in, welcome. We're talking about Intro to Holistic Medicine. That is starting in spring. Well, I guess we're in kind of spring-ish. So it starts next week on Sunday. So all this week I'm running info sessions, and that's what this is about. So feel free to ask any questions about the class. It's a 12-week class. We talk about foundations in the first 4 weeks. I actually don't think so. Ty Baby asked, do you think holistic medicine is better than prescription medicine? Okay, so here I'm going to break this down for you. Okay, so there's no better or worse. It's application and therapeutic order. Okay, so meaning that a patient presents and they're in a certain state. Okay, so in any given moment, you're either building health or building disease. You're creating a state, right? A mental, emotional, and physical state, right? And so when a patient comes in, depending on their state, right, the health naturally, otherwise they wouldn't be with you, is higher than the disease process, right? Now, when the disease process and the health comes to a tipping point and the disease takes over, that's when unalivement happens, right? So they're coming in at various health states, right? And so depending upon the health state versus the disease state, right? Because we don't want the patient at risk. So if the disease state, right, is too high that the patient's health state can't stay stable, that's when we have to use a pharmacological stabilizer, right? That's where we're working integratively with a conventional doctor, and usually they're the prescriber, right? But we're modulating it, meaning we're monitoring it, because we're building the health of the body to eventually, hopefully, get rid of dependency from the medication. So there's something called mechanism of action, and so it's actually how the medication or the supplement or whatever works in the body chemically, right? And so what happens is we can mimic what the pharmaceuticals do with natural, right? Because remember, pharmaceuticals are originally based off of naturally occurring substances, right? So we really, the synthetic is okay, but we can actually biohack the body so we eventually don't need. Now, sometimes we can't, right? Sometimes there has to be that pharmacological, even if it's a low dose, sometimes, we just can't. Or sometimes the patient just isn't disciplined enough and they're just not willing to get to that point where they're willing to do what it takes in order to get them off of those medications. Let me see. Yeah, you had posted something and I totally, it like popped up and then it dropped down. I didn't see it. Something about like your education. Yeah, exactly. So that's how we address it. So, patient will come in, like, let's say a patient comes in and they're on a psychotropic medication, right? So we can't just drop that patient. We can't titrate that patient off of a psychotropic like that. That's dangerous, right? So let's say the patient comes in and they have a goal, right? Because we're result driven. They want a result of reduction of that particular medication, right? So they're working with their PCM, whoever. Yeah, is a biology and alignment. Yes, exactly. A biology bachelor's degree. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so let me see. Hold on. Okay, so patient comes in, right? They're coming in. They've got their prescriber, right? We start them there. Now we have to get their basic foundations addressed, meaning their hydration, their protein, because if we don't get their hydration, their electrolytes are going to be all over the place. That's going to affect their mood, right? That's going to affect their energy. That's going to give them symptoms that may mimic, right, depression, even though it's not, right? Or even though it's dehydration, right? And then we have to look at their protein, because protein will stabilize the blood sugar, right? If the blood sugar is all over the place, it'll trigger anxiety. If the amino acids drop, boom, they're going to be anxious. Then they're going to crash down. So that's not going to keep them, modulated. So we've got to make sure that we address the protein and get the blood sugar balanced, right? And then sometimes these patients have just blown out their adrenal glands, right? Mostly because they're in this fight or flight, their vagal nerve is going, they're in this constant fight or flight or survival. So then we look at environment, right? Is there something in their environment, people, places, situations, circumstances, or events that are creating that, right? Because again, if we don't address that, then we're going to end up pretty much just replacing that pharmaceutical for a natural substance. And my goal is not to keep a patient on something, it is to get the patient off of everything, right? And so it's not just about, replacing one pill for another. That's really not. That's more actually alternative medicine, which we'll talk about. Alternative medicine is, pretty much replacing a synthetic for a natural. That's not what I actually do. I mean, it's okay, but it lacks science, really. I mean, it has some science to it, but it's a very unseasoned way of treating, right? What we're doing is we're actually healing the body based off of the biochemistry, right? And so this separates the the boys from the girls, right? So, and make sure that you're actually doing it. So it takes a little bit more time, a little bit more variables, a lot more data, a lot more understanding of data. It's not that quick fix. It's also not supplement heavy in the sense of like, I'm a supplement salesperson. You won't see me on a live, selling supplements and, oh, take this and take that and take this and take that. You will see me on a live talking about how's your mental health, how's your emotional health, how much water are you drinking, how much protein are you drinking. You will about those basic principles, because if you don't get those foundations down, the rest of it's not going to happen. I don't believe in waste. So patients will, if they don't get those basics down, the likelihood of them taking a pill every day is not likely. Now, sometimes, patient comes in and they do need more acute care. They do, have something, and I'm like, okay, well, boom, 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 boom. So I'm not, saying that I don't, but there's this balance between symptom management and actual cause treatment, right? So when we're treating causes, we're actually looking for what the cause could be. It could be anything. I mean, anything. Like, I have seen it all. So we we don't guess, we test, but also too, we really want to make sure that we're open to possibility. We have to be scientists. So like, for instance, in that show House or whatever, I love how they depict that. That is not how conventional medicine normally is, okay? That's how we do it, because we're over there like, oh, it could be this and it could be that. Less the breaking into people's houses, but, because he was kind of eccentric and all that. But, the thing is that, we do go through all of those case taking. We have to check off all the boxes. Okay, did you do that? Did you do that? Did you do that? Which is why we can't step over things, because in therapeutic order, which I'll teach you, we've got to make sure the foundations of the body are taken care of. If those foundational pieces of the body, hydration, protein, carbohydrates, fats, those sorts of things, those movement, those basic things are not being met, right? Health is going to be very difficult, because those are what foundational pieces of our health. Those are not non-negotiables. Unfortunately, in conventional medicine, they skip right past that. They don't care about that, and they go right to what? The symptom management. And so then you get on, you're just on the symptom manager, and really, some of it could be high dehydration. Some of it could be protein digestion issues. Some of it could be, a lack of fiber. Some of it could be, liver dysfunction, toxicity, mold exposure, heavy metals, all kinds of things, methylation issues. You never know. There's 1,000 things that it could be. And so you really want to take the data so that you know what it is, because we don't guess, we test, we make sure we know exactly. And so again, there's a therapeutic order to even evaluating the testing, because again, once you start stacking data, so you'll see also, so the conventional doctors are now trying to get into holistic medicine, right? They call it holistic medicine, but it's not, because they don't have the heritage, the culture to bring it out mostly. And then also too, they're not in a system that allows for that, right? So it just doesn't work. So anyway, they're marketing, which is great, fine, whatever. Anybody's hustle is fine. But what you want to look for, though, is people that will constantly test. They're testing they're spending all this money in testing, and you're still not getting any answers, right? Also, too, you're taking a ton of supplements. You're being given bajillions of supplements, and you don't even know why, right? And even though I may give structured supplements, you know why you're taking it and what you're taking, et cetera. I do compounding, so a little different. But a lot of times you're just taking all these different things and not really focusing on those foundational pieces like your water, your food, your stress management, your movement, etc. So we really bring it back to the basis, get those foundations together, and then we test to be able to see where the breakdowns are and where the dysfunctions are. So yeah, so it's a 12-week course, 4 weeks of foundation, 4 weeks of modalities. You'll be, guinea pigging on yourself, and then 4 weeks of integration. So we'll do case study, integration, etc. Yay! I love it. I know. I'm so excited. I know holistic medicine is just this amazing world. Like, I just cannot even begin. Like, it is such a world of magic and mystery. Like, you begin to see, like, I remember back when, so again, we're not respected in the healthcare field. Like, we're like on the bottom of the whatever, which is fine, you know, but what was fascinating to me is that, you know, when I first learned like lab testing and all of that, and how we evaluate lab testing versus conventional practices evaluate lab testing, I was like, I was like, I can't be a medical doctor, because of the lack of depth in understanding of the labs and what the labs mean and how to treat based off of the labs. There's a real disconnect in terms of the data and treatment. And we're supposed to be in scientific method. We're supposed to be all doing the same, you know, thing, although we're called quacks and this and that and this and that. But we're the ones that are actually getting the results with our patients. We're not just managing our patients. We're actually teaching them what they need to do in order to heal themselves, because chronic disease, right, which is based off of lifestyle modifiable factors, these are health factors, these are things that people can do themselves, right? That is really what is driving our healthcare cost and really driving chronic disease rates. And a lot of it also is lack of education, provider burnout, lack of access, the absorbent amount of prices. I mean, I stopped taking insurance, right? I used to take insurance for a while. Yes, exactly. I know. I love it, love it, love it. I would say disappointed is not even the word with conventional medicine. I feel like they are complicit in a lot of ways. I feel like they ignore so much. I really am so concerned about just so many things, right? And so much misinformation and miseducation. And that's why really personalized medicine is really the future. Not depending on any sort of whatever, but really understanding your body and how your body works. And that's really why it absolutely is about money. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's about how much can I gain, you know? And I really, if you look at my history in my practice, of course my Google reviews are horrible because people are horrible. And so I was on television. I've been in the field for 20 years. Loud mouth, so it gets you in trouble every time. I don't really care. I've said my piece. I needed to say what I said, but also too, just, there's haters. So anyway, you'll see, right, that I really built my practice. So you can't stand this business over 20 years if you're just a hack, right? Let's just say that. And so here's the deal, right? The thing is that I built a practice off of education, right? And that's why I'm not always the best liked, because I'm the inconvenient truth, okay? Because I don't step over stuff, right? Are you drinking your water? Are you eating your protein? Are you, what are you doing? And I get into people's heads. And so that's the whole thing, right? But I think also too, when you speak truth to power, you're always going to run up against all kinds of stuff, right? I knew I wanted to be a natural doctor. I knew I did not want to be a pharmaceutical prescriber. Not that I believe in it when it's necessary in therapeutic order, but I don't believe that it should be used for everything. I think that it's overused all the time. I think that conventional medicine is very aggressive. Our bodies cannot handle all that synthetic, not to mention the food, the water, the air, some would say it's a conspiracy that we're being poisoned, but I digress. And so the things that I've had to pull out of people's systems, right, in terms of herbicides, pesticides, GMOs, I've had full lab reports of sheets, pages and pages and pages of chemicals in people's bodies, right, that they didn't even know. Babies that come in with massive skin reactions because of toxicity, right, where the moms have eaten fast food their entire pregnancy and the babies come out really sick. They come out jaundice and skin reactions, and then what do the conventional doctors want to do? They want to slap steroids on it. I've gotten into so many arguments with conventional doctors about over medicating, over medicating kids, over medicating adults. I mean, most specialists, I would say, work with me just fine. I haven't had, the only specialist that absolutely, I think, hate me is the psychiatrist. They're really, I'm probably public enemy number one. I'm like up on their board somewhere. Simply because, for me, I grew up, my mother had a, yeah, they do. They give just steroids for everything. And then too, in the realm of psychiatry, they are so unethical with how they treat, because what they do is they don't do any testing. They don't look at actually how the organ is or nothing. They don't do any QEGs. They don't look at any of how the brain is actually functioning. But then they are prescribing these heavy duty psychotropic medications, and then they're asking the patient, and they use subjective analysis, so they're using something, but it's not as strong. So you need subjective and objective to be able to really determine what's going on. Otherwise, you're just managing. And unfortunately, with the nervous system and the nervous chemicals, the deal is that it only will last for a certain period of time, and then the chemicals just won't work. The chemicals in the system just won't work. Hey, how are you? It's okay. I'm doing info sessions all this week. So you're not late at all. It's a 12-week course. It's 3-week sections, 4-week foundations, where we do all the different testing. Well, not different testing. I'm going to give you only three metrics to look at. Then we'll look at 4 weeks of modalities, what we do with the data and how we treat with the data. And then we do 4 weeks of integration. We integrate it all in. So it's a 12-week class, $39 a month, because you have a technology fee. You get an app, there's a course shell, we'll do discussions, I'll do lecture on Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and also Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday is an hour, Saturday's 2 hours. They are recorded, so you'll have the replay in the course shell if you can't make the live class. Discussions are due Wednesday, assignments are due Saturday, everything's time date stamped. You get one get out of jail free. And so there's a link in the bio. You just click it and it says sign up for holistic medicine. There's a form that you fill out. That's all you need to do for right now, because this week I'm just getting all that together, because I don't know if through Hillman you're going to get an acceptance letter and all that kind of stuff, so I want to make sure that I follow the proper protocols and whatnot. So so to be continued on that, but fill out the form and we'll go there. So hopefully that answers your question. Okay, so migraines. Let's talk about migraines. All right, migraines are, okay, so again, you're thinking from conventional, right? So you're thinking, I have this symptom, right? What can I do to treat it, right? So what is a migraine, right? So migraines can come from all kinds of things. So here we go. We're back to the basics. First thing is, how much water are you drinking every single day, right? How is your blood sugar? Because blood sugar spikes up and downs will affect that. How's your liver function? How's your liver enzymes? How's your B complexes? How's your antioxidants, right? How's your phase 1 detoxification? How's your phase 2 detoxification? Do you have mold exposure? Do you have heavy metal exposure? Do you have chemical exposure? You see what I'm saying? Like those are potential causes for what's going on with the migraines, right? Is there some sort of structural issue going on with the brain? Do you need more oxygen to your brain? Are you losing oxygen? There's all kinds of reasons. So again, in holistic medicine, we're detectives, right? We're not firefighters. We're the ones that come back after the fire and figure out why the fire started. I'd like to be the ones preventing the fires, but it'll take us a while to get there, because everybody's trained, we got to work. Everybody's got to work. We're working until, we can, and then we drag ourselves into the ER a billion times. So, it's just, we're all trained in that system. So we try to get people out of the reactive system, and we get them into more proactive instead of reactive spaces. So yeah, very cool. Any other questions? Any other questions you got? So, to summarize it, if you don't want to do a consult, that's fine. Start by drinking half your body weight in ounces in water, and make sure and look up a macro calculator and try to find out how many grams of protein you need to be consuming per day. Average adult is I mean, on the low end is like 70, so you could probably start there, and 70 to about 100 grams of protein. And start with those two things, and then I'd probably go to maybe magnesium. Magnesium's a pretty safe bet. Most people are magnesium deficient anyway, like 1,000 milligrams. And so there you go. Yay! Any other questions? Yeah, so holistic medicine is really fun. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about the body, how the body works. You also learn about how we're totally taught crazy. We're totally taught the wrong things. And so we're going to really start with testing your pH levels. So we're going to look at your acidity and your alkalinity, and we're going to teach you how to create more of an alkaline state and more of an acidic state. We naturally want more of an alkaline state in some areas of the body. We'll talk about the pH levels of the digestive system. We'll talk about a Heidelberg capsule test to assess pH levels. Most places don't have Heidelberg capsule, but I'll at least introduce you to it so you'll be aware that it exists. Heidelberg capsule is just a pill that you swallow, actually, and it will test your pHs going all the way down, because different levels of your GI tract need to have different pH levels. So that's one way to do it. And then there's also, you're welcome, yeah. Let's see, how do you get inflammation out of your head? So are you talking about brain on fire? Is it your brain, or is it your skull, or is it your muscles? Like, there's a lot to the head. So the head has bones, it has flesh, it has all kinds of stuff going on with it. So if you can narrow that down, that would be helpful. So this is also why we take data, right? Because you see the questions, right? And you're listening to the depth of understanding, right? Versus the questions that were being asked, right? And nothing, please keep asking your questions, because they're good. They're good for us to start kind of dissecting and breaking this down, because we're all trained in conventional medicine. It's this fast thing, right? It's like 1, 2, 3. It's very reductionist. It's very, it's not that simple, right? I wish it were that simple. But this is also why they chose Louis Pasteur and Louis Pasteur's theory, because it was very simple. There's some pathogen outside of it. There's some evil bug outside of us that's going to harm us. And, we just have to make sure that we wash our hands and keep proper sanitation, and, pump ourselves with synthetic items, and that sort of thing. Like that was the treatment in germ theory, right? So germ theory is very distinct and specific. I can't regurgitate, it's 11 o'clock here, so I can't regurgitate off the top of my brain right now. But germ theory in essence is, there's these evil bugs out here, there's this precious body, and my internal state has nothing to do with what's going on externally, right? Well, Béchamp, right, Antoine Béchamp, less well known, but definitely who we follow, is terrain. So it's the environment to which our bodies are. So actually our symptoms are nothing more than our body communicating with us. It's our body telling us that something is off balance. So now, just like when the check engine light goes off in your car, you have to now go and plug it in and figure out how, okay, is it this, is it that, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. I know, same thing. So so if we narrow that down a little bit in terms of what the inflammation is, there is a thing called brain on fire, though. We see it a lot with autistic children or children with neurological, like pandas and stuff like that, just because there's so many heavy metals. They used to believe that the chemicals and things didn't cross the blood-brain barrier. If you look up EWG's study, which is Environmental Working Group study, 10 Americans. So 10 Americans, studied actually 10 Americans that hadn't been born yet. They were in the womb and found over 400 chemicals in the umbilical cord. They originally thought that it didn't cross the blood-brain barrier, and then they realized it did. And so now a lot of chemicals are on babies' brains and stuff like that. And so we do have issues like brain on fire as a result of that. So that is a thing, and we have to lower that inflammation. So went to the ER yesterday, was told my sharp pain in my head was a nerve connected to the brain. Okay, so you're having a nerve problem? So you're having a sharp pain. So sharp pain is different from inflammation. So sharp pain can become from a subluxation. That would be more of like a chiropractor, osteopath, physical therapist, massage therapist, all in that realm, your physical medicine people, and osteo, or even a neurologist, mostly, and I'm not trying to put you off on that, but the sharp pain, I'm trying to understand what sharp shooting pain, that could be, again, I mean, you have to narrow it down in terms of where the location would be. Because, I mean, you could even have trigger points within your, traps that can create sharp shooting pains. You could sleep the wrong way, have sharp shooting pains. There's all kinds of, sharp shooting pains. Jaw pain sometimes will do sharp shooting pains, but you know what else can do that, and like nerve type of pain, if you're coming off of Cymbalta. Cymbalta, that one is we've had some real challenges with patients coming on. That's a real nasty drug, I must say. Right temple, so you're having sharp shooting pain in your right temple. Okay. So do you have tension? Are you sitting behind the computer a lot? Because if you're in forward rotation, you're going to be sitting behind the computer quite a bit. And so sharp shooting pain, is it exclusively to the right temple and no other place? And then I'm sure you had a MRI and all of that. So MRI was clear, CT was clear, as long as they did those. Sometimes they won't do them. Also too, there is an still point at your occipital lobe. In fact, hold on one second. So this is a still point inducer. Okay, so it pretty much, it's like you can do 2 tennis balls, and then what you're gonna do is the occipital bone. So there's this kind of shelf. You're gonna stick this here, or the 2 tennis balls, right? And you're gonna lay on it for about 45 minutes, and that will release it's a still point there. And if you lay on that for about 45 minutes, I do have a Discord. You can go ahead and click if you go to the link in my bio, it's got all kinds of, ways to contact me. You practically, have my social online. It's crazy how much, because I've been in the public eye for so long, so all my stuff is everywhere. I couldn't get rid of it even if I tried. I guess I could try. So still point holder would be good. Also too, I use standard massage gun quite a bit, because I sit behind a computer and I'm like hunched over. So I'll take the massage gun, right? And I can put it on any kind of number, whatever, in this little thing, and then I'll go through. But I used to like Rolfing and super stuff. So if you're super sensitive, this isn't going to be a good thing. But I'll go through, and also too, I know where all the muscles are and tendons and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, literally, this is my chiropractor, because they don't really have chiropractors down here. So this is my chiropractor. You're looking at my chiropractor. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I'll sit there and I'll work on my origins and insertions and the trigger points, and then I'll do all kinds of stretching. I have a TRX as well, so I'll stretch my body out and different. And I do a lot of Pilates too, so trying to keep myself upright and organized and streamlined. So plus too, in St. Lucia, it's no joke. We're walking up in incredible hills, and we live up at the top of a really tall hill. So anytime we need to get down, we have to walk down Anytime we want to go up, we have to walk up. So yeah, so it's humbling. So we get a good workout. I try to, it happens usually once or twice a day. Have to go up and down. So it's no joke for sure. So it keeps me young and spry. So, and when you guys get into, the graduate level, and you're in a hybrid program and you're having to come down twice, you typically would come down twice in the program, and, come down and, see how soursop has grown and see how noni has grown and see, bush medicines and all kinds of fun stuff. So, all kinds of fun stuff. So, cool. Do you guys have any more questions? I think I'm going to jump off, but I will be back on tomorrow a couple times. And yeah, so I'm going to try to shoot for, I should tell this. I have another class that I teach. I totally forgot because they just added me into the class. So I teach a morning flow class as well at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's it's like a no credit class. I mean, you can get credit for it. It's an elective, but it's not a rigorous class. There's it's pretty much morning flow. It's an hour long. It's 15 minutes of physical movement. So Pilates pretty much, 15 minutes of meditation, 15 minutes of journaling. So we do it structured with a prompt. Also our meditation right now we just started our prosperity meditation. So we're doing 45 days of a prosperity meditation. And then we're doing a journaling of our identity and recreating our identity. So we start off with who am I today? And then we do planning our day. So I teach you how to structure your day and plan your day. Absolutely beginner friendly. I mean, it's very, very chill. Nothing. Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah, it's more. It's actually more to kind of get your mind, body in order and organized for the day. If you want to go, you can check out my previous morning flows. I did one this morning. So if you want to, you can check. It's very mellow. I do a little, you're contracting things. That's about it. Maybe we'll do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but it's not really, it's not, no. Mm-mm. No, I'm not breaking out the, the kettlebells on you. So... Dear God, let's see. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the morning flow is it's a very nice class. Again, it's with the school as well, so it's a really easy, mellow, fun. It's an elective, and it's a real chill class. A little bit different than Intro to Holistic Medicine. There is for that class, there is a handout. That handout is a little bit more challenging to find though. So I was trying to move the handout to make it easier, but it wouldn't fly. So I'll have to play with it a little bit more. And maybe I'll have to delete it and just load it, so that we can put it on there so it'll be easy. So, and I have to create a syllabus for that class. I'm going to do that probably about Wednesday. 'Cause again, that class kind of just got hijacked in there. I wasn't intending on teaching it for the school, but it got hijacked. But it's a great class and I love it. So yeah, so it'll keep me accountable indeed. So all right, cool. Well, I think I'm gonna jump off. Do you guys have any last questions? I will be on all this week, so not to worry if you didn't think of it today. We'll be all this week. It'll just be a nice week. We'll kind of get our crew together. We'll get everybody registered. We'll get everybody their syllabus, and everybody will just get into, a good flow, and then we'll start fresh next week. So that's kind of my plan, to give everybody that little bit of chill for the week as we kind of roll into next week. So I'll kind of run through the spiel again one more time. So it's a 12-week course. It's delivered online. You do get a certificate of completion afterwards. It's in 3 kind of 3 parts of foundations, which is 4 weeks, which really goes over data processing. Then 4 weeks into the modalities, what we do with the data, and then 4 weeks integration and case study. It's an intro class, and then we'll talk about what next steps look like. If you want to continue in this field, we are building into more of a graduate level school. So there's that, and yeah, and then it's $39 a month for the technology fee. You'll have a course shell, a discussion community group, and then an app that you'll have where you'll be collecting your data in. So, and then handouts as they are necessary. I use PowerPoints typically when I teach, so you'll have the PowerPoints, and then you'll also have any kind of written articles or whatever that I pull for you to read. So that will be it, and we'll work on it. So yeah. All right, well, I'm going to log off now because it's kind of late, and I'm going to rest because I have to wake up and do your morning flow, and I normally wake up, earlier so I can get myself together before, I help you guys. So, all right, well, I will